And we're back. Are you talking to your mic there a sec?
I'm not going to say anything to my mic. You can't tell me what to do. Sorry, can you put your phone away, please, at the office while we're at work?
I'm putting it on silent.
Let's have a no phone policy. Yeah, go on. No. No, you first, please.
This is why this podcast doesn't work.
You'll go on.
My phone is always on loud.
Yeah.
And it always causes an issue, right?
Does
Because it rings during videos or it rings during podcasts, during live streams, or whatever.
I can confirm.
It's happened multiple times.
Multiple times is an understatement.
But
Yeah.
I think that your phone always being on silent actually causes more issues, generally speaking. You will have the audacity to ring someone at 11 o'clock at night. Then I'll miss the call, or I'll text you back being like, I'm in bed, what the fuck is going on? And then I'll ring you back and you'll just not answer.
You're reaching here. Like you're climbing up Mount Everest. You're reaching so high here with this.
But I've never heard your phone ring.
Good. That's how it's supposed to be.
That's not how it's
That's
supposed to be.
It's on silent.
All the time.
All the time, yeah.
Does the ringer work?
Oh, I assume it does. I just immediately turn it off.
That's mad.
I just don't want to be looking at my phone that much.
When I'm going to sleep, I turn my phone on silent and then I immediately turn it. This happens every night. I immediately turn it back on loud because I'm like, what if I miss my alarm, or what if something happens in the middle of the night?
What do you need an alarm for?
For getting up for shooting.
Oh, yeah.
Or getting up for jiu-jitsu.
But you don't need an alarm for getting up for shooting because you just stress wake during the night, think you're going to miss your alarm. Yeah, approximately every 45 minutes you wake up quick.
Yeah.
And you're like, what time is it? It's 2:30. Sometimes you get a real mind fuck where you've been in bed for 2 hours and you think you've been in bed for like 6 or 7 hours and you wake up and you're like, oh, it's only 12:30 or something.
I'll start dreaming about being late.
But it's actually not good because you think you're like, normally, if you're going to work, whatever, if you had a real job,
yeah,
and you were going to work and you'd want to be late, and you'd wake up really early and you'd be like, oh, I've got 6 more hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But when it's hunting, you're like, fuck, I have 6 more hours of stress sleep.
It actually is. You can't sleep. Well, sorry. Definitely at the start of the season, it's way worse. Or if you're going out with somebody, it's way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're meeting somebody somewhere at 4:45,
yeah,
that makes it way worse. When I'm going out on my own, I find that like I don't have that stress. That like
yeah, you're not beholden.
Yeah, I'm mainly just worried about getting a bollocking for being late. Like
the thing I find is very important as well when you're going out hunting is to make the decision that you're going out no matter what the weather is. So if you're going to go, you're going, and if you're not going, not going. I don't like the idea of making the decision on the morning, being like, oh, I'll see how the weather is. It's like you're going out or you're just not going out.
Yeah,
there's no in between, because it's too often you can wake up and be like, oh, do I really want to get up at 4 o'clock? That sounds like rain, doesn't it? And then you just...
That's the massive advantage now with way better weather forecasting.
Yes.
Where you can be like, no, they said at 9 a.m. that's going to go from 0.5 to 0.1 mils of rain. And then you make the decision of being like, yeah, I'm going to go. I remember when we started shooting, it would be like the RTE weather forecast at the 6 o'clock news the night before. And then the decision would be made on the morning. And that was a disaster.
The teletext, like.
Yeah. The teletext. My God.
I was out last night. I was in a town about an hour away, and I was just getting physical therapy on my arm, and I go kind of as the crows fly, so like real straight direction. Americans would call this back country.
Yes,
we'd call it the back of beyonds.
The Badlands.
The Badlands, back of beyonds is what we call it, and because it's back behind, beyond, far away, basically. But backcountry is a good name for it, I feel like. Yeah. So some of it's pretty isolated. Like there's a couple of houses around or whatever, but lots of forestry. It's in the mountains the way I go through it. And I was on the way back last night and I just pulled over to take a piss on the side of the road. And when you get the kind of creepy vibes for no reason,
oh yeah,
it's entirely in your imagination.
Yeah.
Now there's miles of forestry along this section of like planted forestry, evergreen stuff. So it's essentially devoid of life, any kind of
devoid of light as well.
Devoid of light and light.
Yeah.
There's no native birds in there. There's hardly any native animals. There's deer in there, but they aren't going to come nearby. So I took out pacing the side of the road and I was like, oh, this feels kind of spooky. So I was just standing beside my door taking a piss. And it's entirely a figment of imagination.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a fear of the dark. I don't have a fear of like wild animals or anything. I have no problem with this stuff. But just randomly a moment takes you.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
I used to, when I started shooting, you'd be like left in a field somewhere as dusk would come in and deer would come out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was young enough, and you've sitting there on your own, and you've been looking at this furze bush, or you've been looking at like a sally tree for the last 2 hours, and then it gets darker and darker, and you're like, I know, I can see that someone's head looking out. And you start seeing things in the bushes.
Yeah.
And then you might have to walk like down a laneway or through a forest street. There's one particular spot in East Cork, you walk through a forest street to get out to the road.
Right.
If you could take teenage Dara and put him in a phone, it would be the perfect vibrate setting if you needed to wake up. Because I'd be like this.
But you've the gun.
Shaking. I know I've the gun.
You're the hunter.
I'm the literal thing people are afraid of.
Yeah.
But it used to real kick in like.
Just a creep walking through the forest with a gun. You're the problem, like.
Oh, I am 100% the problem. The other thing is like, so it would get dark, but then you're waiting for the other guys you're hunting with to finish up where they are. If they've got an animal, they have to process that animal, put it into the Jeep, drive, like they might be half an hour drive away and then pick you up. So you're like an hour sitting in a ditch somewhere just waiting, like waiting for the banshee to come and tap you on the shoulder.
It's very primal. It makes sense.
Yeah.
That you're alone in a dark forest, that you would be like, oh man, this is actually, your hackles are raised, you feel like there's something going to get you, because for most of human history, something would have gotten you. If you're on your own taking a piss in the dark woods,
you should be afraid.
You should be afraid.
I was talking to a very interesting fellow yesterday. One of our training partners' fathers came down after training, and he was saying, so he's friends with a clinical psychologist in Canada, I think it is, and she was telling him the big problem males have now is that around 13, two things happen to a male. They start going hunting and they start getting interested in women. He said now there's no hunting happening, so there's no massive kind of mountain that they can pour that neuroticism into.
Yeah.
And then when you hear the language young lads talk about getting girls, like, I'm going after your one, or I'm trying to get your one, or whatever, and that those two neurological pathways are becoming combined.
Oh.
Which is now leading to this whole red pill incel kind of thing,
Yeah.
Whereas that was never really a thing when we were younger.
But I was listening to someone on Chris Williamson yesterday, and she was talking about the problem with Gen Z from the female side of thing, mostly, and how they've kind of got no role models, and a lot of it lines up with 2012 with basically the advent of the phones and social media and stuff.
Okay.
I think we're pretty lucky to have grown up with nothing, or very, very little.
Yeah.
I think I was around 16 when we finally got high-speed internet, and then Facebook was the thing maybe the year I turned 17. Geez, you're just so much further along.
Oh, yeah.
There was social media. Bebo was a thing. I don't know if
I never had a Bebo account.
I never had a Bebo either. Like,
No.
I'd say 1 in 10 people might have used Bebo.
I started a Facebook account, I think when I was 15.
To sell
14 or 15. No.
What?
That's hilarious, though. I think when I was 14, one of the lads who I was good buddies with was going meeting a girl he had been in French college with during the summer.
Right.
And he was like, Fitz, you're going to come. And I was like, I'm not coming. I'm going to be like an idiot standing there. And he was like, no, she's bringing a friend. So I'm like 14 years old. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. I don't know what your one looks like. So then I had to set up a Facebook account.
Yeah.
So I could send, so that there'd be a picture of me on the internet. And then went to the cinema and nothing happened.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank God.
Thank God.
I remained pure.
Yeah.
My first phone ever was a Motorola with, the solid aerial that came out of the top of it.
Oh, yeah.
That had been my mother's phone for 4 or 5 years, and she got that phone from buying coffee and getting the tokens off the back of the coffee jar.
No way.
So I think you got the phone free after 20 or 30 jars of coffee.
But it used to be if you paid more than €100 for a phone, it was like, holy shit.
Oh, well, that was Lightyear stuff. Like
now it's like you've €700-800 for a flagship phone or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a pretty good deal or whatever.
Sure, what was that when we had to get that Pixel 2 or 3 weeks ago?
I actually don't remember. It was like €500 or €600.
Yeah, definitely up around 600 or 700, I'd say.
Yeah.
And that was like cheap, like. That was going into the shop being like, lads, what kind of phones do you have that aren't crap, that also aren't really expensive?
Something I think about for my son in terms of social media, and it's like definitely until teenage years, hold off as long as possible.
Oh my God, yeah.
There was Casey Neistat was talking about on a podcast, and he was saying his daughter makes content, but he says to his daughter, like, you can't post it anymore. You can make as much as you want and I'll help you do whatever. She's in her like preteens,
Yeah.
like single digits, I think. And he was talking about you can make the stuff, but you have to make it because you want to make it because it's art or whatever. You want to express yourself, but it's not for making validation on the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
It's art thing as well, just why from our point of view, because if you make your living largely from that.
Yes.
I remember one day during the lockdown, I was uploading one of our YouTube videos, and my wife and some of her friends are training.
Yeah.
And one of the daughters came along, and I was on my laptop outside as well, and she saw me uploading. And she's like, "Oh, are you a YouTuber?" And it was the first time I was like, "Am I a YouTuber? Am I a YouTuber?" Like to her, it was
I'm a science communicator.
It was now, to be fair, at the time, I think I was actually still a scientist.
Okay.
But to her, it was a legitimate career path, you know?
Yeah, which is crazy.
It was a thing like with playing video games when we were younger. It was just like, you're just kind of wasting your time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
that is still a waste of time.
That's the thing. But there's also people who make a lot of money off
there
it,
is.
Like an enormous amount of money.
I think there's a 5-fold increase in the amount of people who make money off general content or using social media for marketing purposes than there is off esports, though.
Yeah.
Like, esports is a massive thing.
Esports.
People make massive amounts of money, but the esports, the total amount of people who are making valuable livings off esports is far lower than the amount of people who use social media like us to make a living.
The problem with that, though, is that you don't know.
You don't? Yeah.
See, the thing is, when I finished university, I was adamant that I wasn't going to go coaching weightlifting or something like that, that I wasn't going to...
Look at you now.
Look at me now! And it wasn't because I didn't want to coach people, but it was like I'd seen people who'd gone coaching, and I was like, that is
Dara
not...
has a terrible life.
But everyone I knew who was gone coaching
Yeah.
was very unhappy or had left it at some stage. That you either had to own a gym, or maybe you could be like some kind of online presence.
Yeah.
And those people were like, you'd be kind of, I don't think I could do that,
Yeah.
And obviously Clarence was making a living off YouTube, but he was a bit of an anomaly in that regard at the time. And then it was just unfathomable that you could do something like this. So I was like, am I going to coach people for weightlifting, or am I going to make big pharma money, And obviously the option was big pharma money, but that obviously things changed pretty quickly,
Yeah.
But the idea that you could do something like this is completely unfathomable,
Yeah.
It's just like something you couldn't even comprehend.
But it's crazy as well to think of so we're a very niche business.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're less niche than people who just coach weightlifting, because weightlifters are only a tiny aspect of what we do. But tiny niche businesses are now very, very viable because of the reach the internet gives them, which they would have never been before. Like, if you sold tactical gear, you could probably only be in 4 or 5 cities in the world. Definitely only in 3 or 4 countries in the world where that's a viable business. Whereas now there's companies that are based in Ireland that are selling tactical gear all around the world. None of it is domestic, except people like me buying some chest rigs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But none of that is domestic, and it's just purely to reach the internet and well-placed ads and well thought out marketing schemes that allows them to have that reach, which it would never have before. Like, if we were doing bespoke high-level S&C coaching or programming, we would have had to have been with a pro sports team or in a university.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or in a national training center somewhere.
I think about, if you look at our kind of business, and you probably could make the mistake of thinking that you can only have a viable business if you're on social media, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't know either way, as in big viable business, a very large business, and I don't. So obviously if you're already a brand, but there's a lot of secret millionaires out there, and I always wonder, is that still viable for a lot of people, or are things changing,
I did, when you talk about secret millionaires, there's a lot, you see it particularly in shooting and in fishing as well, actually. If I go away fishing somewhere and you'll meet these guys, and you'll be like, what do you do? And you'll be like, oh, we just do rubber gaskets and seals.
But they're all an older generation.
Yeah.
They're all late 40s, 50s, 60s,
Even, yeah.
And older again,
Yeah.
I don't know if that time has passed where you could... I knew someone who knew someone basically who was running a wholesale company for bringing in basically alcohol. They'd kind of started with Ireland, but they did move to a lot of different countries, and they were making an absolute enormous amount of money, But I don't know, do those kind of companies still exist?
Or are they all bought out by bigger...
Yeah, can you even start a company like that now and run it without social media? Is it an option? Like, has things changed? I really don't know. I'm not saying this, and like, this is not a rhetorical question. I'm like really pondering that question. It's irrelevant to us, but it's something I do think about, you know?
Yeah, I suppose, like, obviously social media is a vessel at the moment, but before that it was like ad men putting ads in magazines, newspapers, leaflets, flyers, whatever, you know. Like, that's probably always been there. Even when you look at like the ancient pubs that are around Cork and stuff, they still have like the big old sign writing out the front of them, or like on the gable end of the building where they'd have a man lifting a horse and it'd be like, Guinness makes you strong. Like, they're from, some of those are from the 1800s. Like,
yeah, I just think of what some of those companies that don't operate with social media, and like, would they be doing better if they operate with social media, or is it irrelevant to their business? Or like, I feel like a lot of the financial market stuff is obviously completely removed from social media.
Yeah,
like, it's obviously nothing to do with it, or
most
doesn't need it.
Kind of B2B is completely removed from it. But yet you'd still see some business targeted ads every so often that randomly pop up, and you're like, I'm a consumer, I'm not a business. I wonder what puts me in that funnel.
No, you are a business there.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm not in the funnel for like stainless steel welding supplies.
Are you though?
Well, I'm always looking them up, but like business to business companies, where a company, say, for want of a better classification of this, but a company, when you go on their website, they don't have an online store, they don't have prices available on their website. The only thing you can do is make an inquiry or ask for a call back or something along those lines, you know?
Yeah.
You have to wonder, when you see their ads, who's that reaching out to? Like, there's very few people who are going to be in a decision making. Like, those industrial supply companies that are all in Little Island are all living off the pharmaceutical industry that is in South Cork, you know, and they're massive. Like, I know an owner and his son of a massive engineering supply company in Little Island, multi-million euro gig, and they're supplying probably a few industrial estates around the south of Cork, and then if there's a Pfizer plant somewhere abroad and Pfizer used to working with them there, then that stuff will go abroad to there. But they're really there because the industry is there, you know. Like, they have no public outreach. They're just there. It's a particular service or particular product that's needed in that particular area, and then suddenly it's a massive industry for it.
I think it's important as well, if you are listening to this and you're doing your own business, there's kind of no such thing as an overnight success. Like, some people are obviously more successful than others, but you might look at influencers and be like, oh, they're successful, but they're not really a business. They are an ad themselves for a lot of that stuff, you know.
They're a conduit for a business to slip into.
But even in their scenario, they still put a lot of attention into their thing, you know. So most of them realistically didn't just become an overnight success and get those deals or whatever. If you look at someone like Yasmin, for example, I know quite well. She's I think she's like 7 or 8 big brands, you know. And now she is actually a business owner. She bought the gym in Malta, which is very interesting. But she has stuff like Gymshark, PhD Nutrition, and she puts a lot of work into doing that, you know. So even in those cases, you could look at other people and be like, oh, they've basically just skyrocketed to the top, you know.
Yeah.
I would say, we've talked about this, I'd hate to be starting out now in some ways.
Oh God, yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's just because we're at a certain point in our life, or it's because of the way things are in terms of social media market.
I think both, but mainly the second one.
Yeah.
When you look at YouTube videos now, like, I have a channel that I have put a shooting video up onto. That video got 100 views, say, right?
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that if I was putting up a video a day onto that, bar like 1 or 2 weird quirks, like if I was putting shorts up in November, December and January of this year, might have gotten a bit more traction. But I have absolutely no idea how that page would grow in size, you know, compared to, like, obviously we have a plan for what we're doing. We have a direction for what we do. We know why we're doing the things we're doing with videos, with posts and all that, or we have an idea behind it. We don't know why it works or it doesn't work. But I think if you imparted that model onto a brand new page, you're fucked. Like,
I don't think so. I think YouTube maybe, but in terms of Instagram is better than ever in some ways, because Instagram now shows you stuff you're interested in.
Yes.
Like, it gives you stuff you're interested in. and not based on who you're following or what you've looked for already or what you post yourself. So it just shows you stuff. It's gotten so complex.
It's gotten so much better at that.
Yeah.
It's gotten way, way better. I feel like now if I'm, if you're on your just normal feed and you click into a reel and you just scroll through those reels, I feel like nearly all of those reels are hitting the mark bang on.
Yeah.
It's actually one reason why I like the YouTube Shorts thing at the moment is because YouTube Shorts will pop up things that I'd usually never watch and aren't on the same. Like, I feel like if I'm on Instagram now, it's 5 or 10 topics that I'm looking at all the time and it's all the same content. It just really funnels into that really kind of directly. I think the YouTube algorithm isn't so direct at the moment. I feel it's much more broad. Like, I'm going to get 20 different topics. I'll get some repeats and I'll get a lot of pages popping up again if I dwell on those pages. But more so than Instagram, it is way, way wider.
Well, YouTube actually used to be like Instagram is now. It used to be better at giving you stuff that it thought you were interested in. Zach was talking about this a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the series, the technique series he put up, and how realistically most of his viewers will never see that, and most people will never see that again. And it is quite interesting because in Instagram you can put up stuff and it'll just go crazy. Like, you put up that psychology reel in regards to the warm up of wrestlers. Well, you were actually talking about athletes in general, just part of it being nerves, and gained a bit of traction from some dumb comments, but a lot of people agreed who were also wrestlers themselves. But that's by and by. That's got a load of views, and I got hundreds of thousands of views on Instagram. But on YouTube, it is different, and it's very hard to pinpoint what is actually a thing, like what's going on with the algorithm. Like Zach, if you look at Zach's older videos on his technique, some of those have hundreds of thousands of views, in the millions. Like, I think his You're Not Lou video is definitely in the millions. It's certainly at least 1 million views or whatever, which is, for a scripted weightlifting video, is pretty insane. So on one hand, it's very interesting to see that the market is there for that, but then it's also like, Zach couldn't make another video like that now, and not because Zach couldn't make a good video like that.
Yeah.
The platform Zach is using on YouTube just would never give him that opportunity again. And I don't know what it is, like,
because it's not like, obviously there's certain videos where they're not going to be pushed hard, like videos with problematic titles or problematic things in the content of the video, which for someone like Tim Kennedy or someone, that video won't explode. Probably for good reason, if you're being realistic about it.
Yeah.
In Zach's case, there is no good reason why that video doesn't get pushed. Like, there's no reason you want the algorithm not to make a video big like that.
Because in that case, like, they are obviously very good videos that people liked and people would watch through for the whole episode, however long his essay was. And he was speculating that it's a consumerist thing now, that it's just becoming more of like not shorter attention span, but grabbier attention stuff.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's, I don't know what's going on. And it seems like from what you hear of YouTube, it sounds like they don't really know that well either. I don't know if I believe them when they say that. I feel like that could be a defense, but
yeah,
it is very possible that they're not quite sure.
I feel like there's a lot of A/B testing going on all the time there.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like at the moment they might have picked B a few times when they should have gone with A.
But I wonder, not to sound like a fucking nutcase, but are they in control of that A/B testing? Because I don't think they could be. Sure, if you ever think of a really niche topic. But then there was one on Meat Eater's YouTube, and it was Clay Newcomb hunting wolves in Alaska, which even if you're not involved in hunting, is a very, very controversial topic, is hunting and killing wolves. And
particularly trapping wolves.
Yeah, trapping wolves and then shooting them, which both of us agree is very grim. And in terms of the actual action, I think.
Yeah, I think it's better you don't show that.
They didn't show that either. Yeah. But we were both like, oh, this one's obviously going to do well. Whereas if you look at the other Meat Eater videos, they might be like 10, 20, 100,000 views. Now, obviously, Meat Eater's massive. They have a Netflix show. They're the biggest hunting thing in the world, without a doubt, unparalleled.
Definitely the most influential as well.
Oh yeah,
like massive reach.
They own so many hunting companies.
Yeah, like they have the monopoly on all good hunting gear that's sold in the US, basically. And as well, when you look at companies that are very big, like a company like Yeti, massive, like way bigger than the reach hunting and fishing could ever give. And Meat Eater are hand in hand with them. I feel like Meat Eater have a big, and with Netflix series and stuff like that, their reach goes far beyond the people who are fans of hunting and fishing. It's more people than that know about Meat Eater.
The thing is, it seems that based on if a video is, controversial is the best word I can think of, but probably attention grabbing, you kind of know it's going to do well.
Yeah.
Like if it's a hot topic for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be a current topic.
Hot tamale.
But like a topic that's very on point, you can be sure it's going to do pretty well within reason, you know?
Yeah.
And the weird thing about YouTube is it's like really subtle engagement can really change the traction of a video. Like we've the short with Lee Wan Wah and was it Leo? Someone told me how to say it properly anyway. Actually, someone commented on the news show saying we don't even try to pronounce names correctly. I think we try as much as possible. There's like could be 15 different countries on the thing.
As well, for a load of those names, we go and look at like how phonetic spelling of whatever the name is, or how do you pronounce whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or we'll go on to someone like We Lift Weights and see how they pronounce the name.
Yeah.
I feel like we make a massive effort, but it's different people every week as well.
But like put up a list of 10 Irish names and see how many people can get those right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Quiva,
say the
Siobhan.
name Dara and Owen.
Yeah.
By reading both of their names.
How often do we come onto a call with a consultation with someone and they're like Ian or Derry or something and they're not joking like, but it never bothers me. I couldn't give a fuck like.
Why would you care?
But like literally Tig, Emer, Quiva, Siobhan,
Maeve.
Ignatius, Maeve.
Yeah.
Keep going like.
Yeah.
You know, people can't say those names because it's a different language. Like,
yeah,
it's just so obnoxious to be like, can't even say the name. Now, I really like when someone is like, oh, that was a good attempt. You actually should say it like this.
Yeah.
I actually do like that.
That's so useful.
That's such an adult thing to do.
I feel like a lot of Eastern Europeans have done that in the comments of our videos.
Yeah, Polish people are really funny.
They're and like, actually Scandinavian people as well are that's funny. Thanks for the attempt. It should be fucking or something, you know.
Yeah.
I could not care less.
Why? It's so weird. It's such a weird thing to get annoyed about.
A funny story on that actually. So we lived abroad when I was younger, and we were constantly traveling all the time, every few weeks in the airport. And one of my sisters is Maeve, and no matter what, you'd be going through passport control, and they'd be like, "Miav, Miav." And to be fair, she doesn't have the Irish spelling of it, where it would be like BH at the end of it or whatever. Mm-hmm. For years, this used to piss her off, right? And she was in her teens, like 15, I'd say. It just really annoy her, you know, like every time they'd say it, like, why can't they just say it right?
Yeah.
Name in the passport was spelled wrong.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
So, yeah, it should be
MEAVE or something.
Yeah. But it was MEAVE. So it was Miav.
Okay.
But it's so funny. It took us like 2.5 years to figure out.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
She was getting annoyed about
Miav.
it. No, people can never say own on the passport or whatever.
No.
And obviously only you're coming back into Ireland or whatever, and the guards are like, oh, welcome home or whatever, or something like that. But yeah, that's a name. But anyway, so on YouTube, people still want to look at good quality videos, but it's just... The thing that'll happen is, if you imagine like this, like your normal, so let's say put up a training vlog and it might get 5,000 views after a week.
Yeah.
Which the way YouTube is now, and for us, I think it's a very good viewership, you know, and you're looking for a video that people want to watch more than like, oh, this video is going to go viral or something. But the thing is, if someone clicks on a video, like I put up my Road to 300, which I knew would do quite well, because it's funny what happens is like 0.5% more people might click on that within the first 10 minutes. And then 4% more of them might click like, and then 2% more of those than usual might click comment. So then the YouTube algorithm basically goes, oh, okay, so this is obviously just ticked up a small bit. So then it starts going wider and wider and wider. And eventually then it either gets throttled or it keeps going. Like we've that short with Lee Wan Wah, that's why I started that. The Giga Chad, like the short is at nearly 1 million views or whatever.
Yeah.
Thousands of comments. And
it's funny, you literally see when the uptick happens.
Yeah.
So you'll see on like the diagnostics app, the analytics or whatever.
Studio app, yeah.
You'll see like the normal line, and then there'll be shadow either side for like a standard video of this type will have roughly this slope of the line, and then you'll just see like an upward inflection.
Yeah.
And it'll just go whoop. When the video's usually tailing off, it's the little kick up at the end. It's crazy.
Do you know who I've been watching a lot lately is Andy Stumpf. He's on
Andy Stumpf.
On Ironclad.
Yeah.
He has got to be the most, from what I've seen of him, I haven't watched a whole lot of his stuff, but I'm certainly aware of him, the most normal post-special forces person who's a social media person.
He
seems like an adult.
We were talking about that in the group chat yesterday, like the least kind of full on. I think Andy got out on time.
Yeah.
You know, he got into, wasn't he doing like the Red Bull wingsuit stuff?
Was he? He was doing the parachuting, yeah.
He was doing a lot of like really intense sporting stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think his identity transitioned out of military service much better than a lot of other people. Not necessarily better, but he just has a bit more going on afterwards than just being the ex-special forces or ex-military guy, and that's his whole thing. Like, there's a lot of people whose identity is fully tied up in that, you know. And every time they produce a bit of content, it's just that. Every time they talk to someone, it's just that, just translating their experience into their own experience or into the guest's experience. Whereas when you have someone like that who's...
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I just think some of the views they take sometimes are pretty radical. Like, again, Chris Williamson podcast, Tim Kennedy was on, and he was like, not all colonization is bad. Some people have been colonized, it's made them better. And it's like, I would have to put a hard no on that one.
Yeah.
That's would have to really disagree with.
It's the same as saying not all slavery is bad.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the slaves are better fed than where they were. It's like, no, it's definitely still all bad.
So but Andy Stump is like, he's doing a thing called change agents, where he's looking at a lot of different people, and he's looking at it seems to be on some kind of network, YouTube, you know, some of those. So it's called Ironclad, so it's not his own thing. His own thing is like Cleared Hot. I don't know if he still does that, but I've just been going through the same kind of videos that are on this Ironclad YouTube channel, and some of the stuff is very, very interesting. There is like, listen to a fellow this morning who was involved in child trafficking. There was other people, and one of the things on the channel was looking at El Salvador. Have you heard about what happened in El Salvador?
No.
So there was these two very large gangs, MS-13, you've probably heard of them.
Yeah.
And then there was like something 18. It's like the Spanish word for street or something.
Okay.
And they basically kind of had a stranglehold in the country for decades. And a new president came into power, and he basically took away everyone's civil rights. You didn't get due process. You didn't have to have suspect reason to arrest someone. It was literally martial law. The army went out in the streets, and I think in something like in the space of like 10 months, they arrested a certain number of people. How many people think they arrested?
50,000.
70,000 people were arrested.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, put into these camps, into prisons. A lot of them have just disappeared for over the last like 2 years or something like that. And so the big thing is, obviously, because people are just swept up in arrests, obviously there's still a certain percentage of them have to be innocent people.
Yeah.
I think like 100 of them have died in prison or something. And the thing there is, obviously, some of them was surely interesting people, or there's statistically a chance that some of the 100 were innocent, they died in prison, who wouldn't have died otherwise, which is obviously very tragic. But apparently most of the citizens of the country are like, it's made a great, massive difference. Yeah. Because they were doing mostly petty crime, or they were doing stuff like extortion, racketeering, stuff like that. And like, there was just certain parts of the country you just couldn't go to, or certain places you would just get shot immediately. Apparently, so obviously you haven't been to El Salvador, but there's even a thing where if you fled the country and then you went to, say, the USA and you got deported, you could be executed essentially as soon as you got off the plane. They were just like, if you don't want to be in the gang, then you're no good to anyone, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mexico seems to be a big problem now.
Yeah.
I was literally listening to that same podcast with Ed Carleon.
Ed Carleon, yeah, he's very good, yeah.
Mexico seems to be getting to that point where
he said he reckons USA's next war is going to be at Mexico.
That's crazy.
Surely
you don't want a war on your doorstep, though. Like, they do love war. Like, they're mad for it, but surely you don't want one. Like, nobody wants that mist of like blood and guts and smell drifting northwards over the border. Like,
yeah, I don't but I don't think the US citizens want war. Like, I don't think that's...
I also think that they'd have a massive problem because of China supporting
Mexico or whatever. Yeah.
Like, it's it's not necessarily a thing of flicking a switch in the morning and it's over by Monday afternoon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's a big, long, drawn-out thing.
That's what he was saying at Carl Jones, was that China were supporting them a lot in regards to a lot of their technology and stuff like that. It's hard to know, but then you see loads of people going on holiday to Mexico and stuff.
I think those resorts are mostly owned by the cartels, and so they just keep them perfect, you know.
They make a lot of money from them.
Yeah. Like, we were talking to a fishing guide last year in Canada, and he said he was on a resort down in, like, one of those Mexico holiday resort places, like a beach resort. He flew down there after the season. So fishing guides in BC make insane money for 4 or 5 months of the year, like 50 grand a month kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they fly away, they'll go on holidays, or they'll live in Mexico for a while, or they'll go to Florida and they'll guide some other fishing down there. But he was saying he was on the beach, and he's got like a bit of a stoner guy, really nice fella, and he was on the beach, and the guy saw him like smoking cigarettes, and he was like, "Hey man, do you want something better, you know?" And he was like, "Oh brother, I don't have my wallet with me, it's okay." And he was like, No, it's okay, we know what room you're staying in.
Jesus Christ. Holy fuck.
So he said he just gave him a bag of weed.
Yeah.
And he ended up meeting the guy later on that day. But he was like, "Hey, man, I could have just ran away and not paid." And he was like, "I wasn't joking. Who do you think owns the hotel?"
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Was that guy selling weed Mexican?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Did you not know by my understated Mexican accent?
Yeah, that's fucking mental.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
he
hard,
said he
like-
just saw he had like the full inclusive wristband or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, knew straight away, yeah.
You get a bag of weed with your full inclusive
Yeah.
wristband. A lot of people still go on holidays to Mexico and stuff like that.
There's friends of ours who talk about doing their honeymoon to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, I just don't know about that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there are nicer places closer by that aren't in a massive civil uprising at the moment, like,
Yeah.
or massive gang wars going on. Funnily enough, was gang wars going on in Ireland not long ago.
But we'd a very troublesome border
Yeah.
up until like the 90s, basically. Like,
It's still pretty troublesome up there.
it is pretty
So
troublesome.
we've a media embargo on terrorist activities in the north of Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's illegal to report
Mm-hmm.
on terrorist activities in Northern Ireland if you're in the Republic.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's for good reason, though.
It's definitely for good reason, yeah. But there was one of my psychology lecturers, was in Queens for a long time, and he said he still has a lot of buddies up there and stuff. And he said he was going up there. This was when we were doing our masters, so he said he was going up there for like, I think a few days of like guest lecturing or something. And they were like, no, there's been a huge bombing. Like, there's multiple car bombings near where you're supposed to stay. And he was like, I had no idea. He was just driving up there, had no idea that there was any issues or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mad. It's mad. I think that's still going on.
It must be, it's obviously hard for everyone, but I wonder what it's like living in the US now, especially if you're down south near it seems like that's a hot topic if you pay attention to news or whatever like that the border stuff is.
Yeah.
But I wonder, does it affect people's everyday lives? Like, does it make any difference to them?
I wonder. Because I feel like everything we see is very curated.
Yeah.
And like, even when you're watching stuff on YouTube and stuff like that, you're watching it from one side or another. Is it that divided over there? Like, I'd love to know. There's a lot of American people watching this and listening. I would love to know how divided it feels on a daily basis. Like, is it what people are talking about in the shops or cafes or whatever?
Yeah. There is online, I feel like there's, if you go outside your usual cohort of subscribers or followers or whatever, there's a real general air of skepticism about everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people are wrong for that at the moment, though. I don't know.
I think they're right.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right to be questioning maybe what the media is telling you. But then if someone's doing a deadlift, and your general air of skepticism is following through there, I don't know if you're really right about that.
Yeah.
Like, the death of the expert is something someone is talking about a lot, and it is definitely very interesting. There was that, who made that video about the death of podcasts? Was it the English fella? James Smith.
Yes.
Remember he made the video talking about basically just ragging a load of podcasters or whatever.
Yeah.
Some ways I can agree with him. I think it was an interesting video. And it's funny, his business partner Chris Williamson, they have the New Tonic thing together. You know, Chris makes obviously the biggest podcaster probably going right now, probably bigger than Rogan, or going to be bigger if he keeps going the way he's.
They definitely could be bigger.
And he was talking about himself, like that general air of skepticism that people have with stuff online. But what James Smith was saying was that, and CoffeeZilla was talking a bit about this, is that you have an expert, and what they speculate, or maybe I'm putting words in their mouth, but this is definitely at least what CoffeeZilla was saying, was that these experts run out of things to talk about, and then you have to talk about other stuff, which I think is kind of a bullshit. I don't think that's the case. Like, you can talk about whatever the fuck you want, like.
But I actually think this ties in really well to what we were talking about with Instagram and YouTube and all that, and getting people a bit more, getting those inflammatory markers in there a small bit more, is you'll get someone who's an expert, and like, if it's talking about whatever, health, right? Health and nutrition for your health, you can put out 500 phenomenal videos on carbohydrate timing, nutrient density in different foods, all of these different things, right? And all those videos will do about the same. But if you get that person who already has some air of authority and some buy-in from the people who are watching it, so like, I like watching Stan Efferding, so Stan Efferding's opinion is probably my opinion, and then they talk about something inflammatory like fasting or whatever it is, immediately then you have a big cohort of people who are going to buy into that and start talking a lot more in the comments. You then have the alternative view who are going to start talking in the comments a lot about this isn't right and this isn't right and this isn't right, and maybe some of those things aren't right because you've deviated outside your normal area of expertise, but that video does so much better and gets so many more eyes. And if you're in the influencer space, it's just that amount of eyes that matter. Like, if you're looking for sponsorships or you're looking for those deals with brands, they want more brands there. I can easily see how that happens every single day with people like that, you know.
Do you try and curate the things you watch much? Do you pay attention to what you're watching?
Yes. I very much curate my home feed on YouTube and say, don't show me this again.
Oh, do you?
All the time, yeah.
Okay. What kind of stuff are you saying, don't show me?
And this isn't a shot at you, because this is going to sound like a shot at you, but it's not.
Yeah.
But I'll get things that you like watching that pop up on my home feed, because we're using the same Wi-Fi route or whatever, and I'll just try and get rid of those as much as I can.
What's wrong with history stuff there?
The history stuff, get rid of it. The video game stuff, I don't like watching. And then the kind of video essay stuff on some of the movies and stuff, it's just not for me. Like,
yeah.
You know, like, I understand why it's there, in the same way where at home some stuff that my missus will watch will pop up on mine because we're using the same Wi-Fi router or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just try and curate it as much as possible, so my attention only goes into the things I want to watch.
I find I don't watch a whole lot of fitness content too much. Like, who's that fella we're watching this morning? It was on about the Trent twins. One of them went to hospital or something.
Yeah. Johnny Bravo or something.
That's it, yeah. I clicked on this thing. After like 5 seconds, I was like, why the fuck are we watching this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, what are we watching here? Like, what the fuck is...
Yeah, it's just wasting time.
But if you look at like Greg Doucette's channel, now I pay attention to a lot of fitness people. Obviously we do, it's part of our job. You always want to be looking when people are doing, so if they're doing well. And like Greg Doucette there, or Chael Sonnen, kind of similar, different niches, but very similar ways.
Delivery method.
Very similar delivery method and same tactic. It's just like lots of videos on hot topics, and both of them do really well out of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's something we try and stay away from. Like, the news show is so funny, because if people who watch the news show regularly understand that the news show is entirely about celebrating people's performances.
100%.
That's what the news show is for.
Yeah.
We don't rag on anyone. But then if you put up like the clips on shorts and sometimes on reels, and Alex makes most of those shorts now for us or whatever, and like, he's a knack for making stuff very well. And like, we put up the one on, this is just the most recent example, but there's plenty of these examples. If you put up on like Sam Sulek squatting, we were talking, first of all, we'd start by saying that's a fantastic squat, very, very strong. It's amazing. He's squatting 260 for like a double or a triple, you know, great guy, whatever. We're just talking about the squat board being a terrible idea, and loads of people watch him, so are like, are not squatting on a squat board. Just get weights and shoes first of all. But if you must stand on something, don't stand on a single metal plate on a slippery floor. we're just saying that's not a great, you know, people are like, oh, ragging on it, and sort of one or two commenters obviously just gotten blown in from the Sam Sulek crew, and they were like, guys ragging who could never be bigger and stronger than him, and you're like, definitely stronger than him, but that's not the point of the video, you know. It's just that like general air of skepticism comes along with
even
that.
In last week's news show, I think so news show does quite well, and it does get new viewers in every week. But even on last week's news show, there's people commenting being like, yeah, just a couple of people who want to be 1%ers commenting on other people's stuff or whatever. We're like, anybody we show on the news show is the most positive thing we can possibly do. We get sent stuff every single day that's terrible form, really bad squats, people injuring themselves.
You see people doing the Tom and Jerry thing on Bosu balls, you know, where they're like going really fast with their feet. Get that all the time.
Yeah. Or like all this random, or like coaches.
Yeah.
One coach in particular we get sent on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Doing weird stuff with Balsa balls or Bosu balls or whatever. And we never put it up. We never do it. I've no doubt that those videos will do absolutely class, but it's not what we're about.
Yeah.
Like, we're about being positive about people. Even some athletes who are phenomenal athletes who might have very bad form for lifting, never put them up. Never go near them.
We still defend athletes when you put them up when they're doing stuff, because there is context on it, you know. And what I never get is how emotional some people get in comments. Like, whether it be if you're talking about a style of programming, a form of technique, someone's natty status. I do not understand the anger. It makes no sense to me. I just don't understand how someone can comment on something and just be so mad, like so clearly angry about this subject. YouTube's not too bad, because most of the time YouTube seems to keep it to your crew, you know, which is actually a great thing about YouTube. So you get the regular commenters, and you get people leaving nice comments or supportive comments or interesting comments, you know, and that's great about our YouTube, and we're very lucky with that. And then Instagram is different, because we're posting a lot more on Instagram now, and you get the regular viewers and they're always really nice, and then you just get the randomers come in, you know, and the default for randomers and a new person stuff is negative. It's so interesting.
Yeah. But I think that's because they're being pushed there because of the inflammatory thing. That's the algorithm pushes it, because that first video they'll show them, they know it's a bit more inflammatory. I'm trying to pull up a video here. So I was watching a video, and I don't want to name what video it is, but it was an unbelievable achievement. Very, very high level of athleticism to pull it off. He's one of the very few people who have done it, and I saw it was like 3,000 comments, you know. And I'm scrolling down through the comments. Really good athletes commenting on it all the time. Amazing or whatever. But most of the comments were, I can't believe how much hate this is getting. Can't believe how much shit people are talking in the comments. And I was scrolling through, and none of the comments are showing up. And then I went to the hidden comments at the end, and there's thousands of comments on this, and it's all the same thing. Can't believe how much hate this is getting. But this person had obviously cleared out all of those comments. But there was like, I think there was I think there was 20,000 shares on the video.
Jeez.
And 3,000 comments or something like that. Something crazy, you know. But it is mental just to see, like, in that case, I was just scrolling through, obviously trying to find the comments, because you want to read and see what people were saying or what they're complaining about.
Yeah.
But in a case like that, everybody understands that's insanely impressive to do. You see by how many views and how many shares and stuff the video got that it's an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
Yet the comment section is mainly dominated by obviously shit talk to start off with, and then people defending against the shit talk or being so shocked at all the shit talk happening, you know.
But I think people are dead right to curate your comments, because the negativity begets negativity then. Yeah. Whereas I think it's better if the video doesn't go as big, but you keep it in the positive direction.
I also think there's no harm with letting people know what's expected of them in the comments. Yeah. Like that this isn't some sort of zoo where you're going to talk all... So like Chris was talking about that, wasn't he? With the Modern Wisdom podcast, that he curated comments for a long time. Yes. Made sure people knew what was expected of them. Block, ban or whatever with the comments.
He's probably too big now to keep doing that.
Yeah. But like at our level, I definitely think that's the way to go.
I don't think so either. I don't think it's that possible. You just have to be looking at all the comments all the time and see older videos can do really well. Say like your wrestling reel there's like 50 or 60,000 likes, hundreds of thousands of views, maybe more. See, you could be 8 posts in, and then that just takes off, you know.
Yeah,
and I don't look at. I have the comments turned off, so I look at comments in the most recent post just to see how it's doing, or whatever. But and like the only time I ever ban someone on Instagram is if I see you say something mean directly at us, you know. And it's so funny because it's like, I mean this, and I can't. There's Irish people listening who'll understand. Is that there's nothing you can say to us online that someone when we were teenage boys hasn't said that was 10 times meaner, or that our friend said to us a week ago at a stag at the age of 30 that was so cripplingly specific that you couldn't imagine, you know. And people will be like, they might say something like, oh, 2 clowns or something, and you're like, darling, you just do not understand. Sometimes, see, I go through a phase where I want to write back, like, and the zingers I have sometimes are like, they're so mean, because I'll just look at their profile and I'll instantly think of like 3 or 4 things that I could just wrap them with, you know. But there's no point doing that, you know. There's 0 point doing that. And mostly then I'll just ban them, because I'm like, okay, this is the better option, just ban them from it. But my brain was just doing that for the last 20 odd plus years since I came to fucking consciousness.
I think that's why Pao Dwyer. Pao Dwyer's recent, unbelievably good.
Yeah,
because he
has it in him.
Someone will have the audacity to comment on like a girl deadlifting or whatever and be like, yeah, you're too muscly, and then go onto the guy's account and it'll be like a skinny fat dude or whatever, or a really weak person. If you had grown up in Ireland, you would never make a comment like that in your entire life, because you understand full well you would be absolutely buried within 30 seconds of making that comment, and it would be brought up to you for the next 20 years every time you opened your mouth.
But you'd be thinking about what you're going to say.
Like, you're called sheep shagger to this day, like.
Yeah, because I was hanging around with you, like, you know, you shag one sheep and you're left with this name. It's so unfair, you know.
Yeah,
because all those goats you fucked as well, you know, but the one sheep you got caught with.
Yeah. Nobody cares about the goats.
No one cares about those goats. It's because they
start getting cum in the wool, like.
They're an invasive species of goats, you know, so no one cares about that. But that one video of you with the sheep just went.
Went crazy.
No, but you'd be
shagging Sean.
You'd be thinking about stuff, and you're ready for what someone else might say back to you, you know.
This weekend, I had the absolutely mad idea of doing a 10K.
It's coming.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do a 10K.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was like planning out training and stuff and looking at overall mileage for the week, you know. And I was like, oh, a 10K would be perfect, and it would mean I wouldn't have to do a session on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
But I started mapping out a 10K, and 10K is damn long.
Where are you going to do it?
There's a run down the river from Carrigaline to Crosshaven. I just do out and backs there, and that will get me that, and it's nice and flat.
I saw some local domestic Kenyan race in the 10K and 28.63 or something. So you aiming for on that?
Where is that in Kenya?
Yeah, big cross country as well.
I probably won't aim for that. If it happens though, I'd be damn happy.
That'd be your 5K pace, the 28.
Yes.
28.63 or something, or 62. No, anyway, 53.
I actually need to time a 5K probably in a week or 2 weeks' time. I had it down for the end of March.
How's your
do a timed 5K?
Desperate hunger. You're not even hungry, are you?
No.
What time is it?
I'm. What time is it right now?
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
1:15. We've till 1:30.
How long? What are we in now?
We're at 05.
1:05.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my terrible crippling hunger isn't terrible this morning because I had a few venison burgers.
Okay. But you're basically only carbs around training.
Yeah. I had some carbs this morning because there was leftover sweet potato fries on the plate in the kitchen.
Are we just going off completely what you're supposed to be doing?
When I talk about like ravaging hunger, do you know when you've like really bad DOMs, but you're also that kind of hunger where in the back of your throat there's like that emptiness. That's what every day is like now. But
you wanted to lose that weight really fast, you know?
Yeah.
So you've got just a consequence of your actions.
Oh, it's nothing but my own fault.
What weight are you
also,
now?
I wouldn't have to lose all this weight if I just wasn't mahoosive beforehand.
But you...
Also, people are starting to get me with the 130 kilo comments now. It's happening.
But like, what weight are you this morning?
99.2.
And you're heading for 92-ish?
92, 93, 94.
I don't know. Have you 4 to 6 kilos to lose, meaningfully?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep going. I'm doing 8 weeks of this.
And you're going to reassess.
And I'll see what it's like then,
No, it makes sense. But as a valuable person, as a viable human being, like, I don't know, can you sustain
I don't think I should be under 100 kilos.
Like a 6 kilo loss?
Like, I don't think normal Darfit should be under 100 kilos.
Yeah.
I think that would be like having a Toyota Avensis with a little 650cc engine in it.
Do you know anyone who can get you a DEXA scan?
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to see what your body fat is now.
Yes.
Could be all
I
around
actually should do that.
Could be all around your organs where it's good. And I heard it's good for your organs because it keeps them well insulated.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The last time they said there was an alarming amount of fat around my organs, but I was like, oh, obviously that's like alarmingly safe.
What they said you had
I should actually text them and see can I get a DEXA.
non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So that was good because they were like, you're not an alcoholic and your liver's really fat and insulated.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was non-alcoholic, and I was like, oh, I am an alcoholic.
But they're like, but it's
that's
non-alcoholic.
not what's causing my liver disease.
Yeah, they're like, you're not an alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is amazing how resilient you are.
It actually is how resilient I am because I've done some terrible things to my body and my bloods are always grand.
And your heart's beat is really even and strong, isn't it? It's really like...
It's
just
I
like
think
that.
it's only one ventricle of my heart is enlarged, is what they were saying.
Oh, just one of them?
Like just my left ventricle.
You'll have to work to get those other ones hypertrophied.
That's what I'm trying, just to get a big heart,
Mm-hmm. Big, strong heart.
Because I've been told I have like a small, cold heart. But I need a big heart. Like there's a lot of love there,
And they were saying your prostate is massive. They were all saying that, wasn't it? That was what they were saying. They said it's like a baseball.
Well, they didn't say it about anything else.
Well, no, the big strong prostate for running, because that's
that's it was because I was shitting a lot of blood when I was squatting.
No, that was
they were like bigger prostate's better.
That'll block the blood coming out.
Here, people need to talk about shitting blood when you're squatting.
No, we don't. Everyone needs to keep that a secret. You learn that by yourself. You get scared for yourself, and then you don't talk about it with anyone.
People need to talk about it.
They don't need to talk about it there. It's
It's
trial by
thing.
fire. It's a rite of passage. The first time you squat a big weight and you shit blood the day after, and then you don't talk about it with anyone. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to tell anyone.
That's how it's been.
So you're a man. So what men are. I don't know if it happens to female lifters.
I don't know.
But men, you're supposed to shut up and get on with it, and you're not supposed to talk about it until it gets you. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do.
I don't think people who don't shit blood talk about it.
Any other course of action is incorrect.
It's an alarming thing. I remember when it happened to me first.
I can remember 2:30 was the first time it happened.
Really, 210 was the first time. I did 210 in Mallow.
Well, you're weaker than me. So that lines up correctly.
Yeah. And that night I got back to Limerick,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, huh?
But the fucked up thing is you said nothing. You didn't tell anyone. You didn't go to a doctor. They're always like, if you shed blood, it's really bad.
That's the thing. Shitting blood is the bad thing. Like,
apparently, though, if it's like dark old blood, it's really bad. But if it's like fresh new blood, it's just
oh, thank God. You started that sentence, and I was like, Gerf, this is like bright pink oxygenated blood.
If it's like new blood, it's fine, apparently.
Oh, if it's like internal bleeding, clotted blood, bad.
Yeah, bad.
I used to never understand the internal bleeding thing when I was a kid. So I was like, it's all staying on the inside. That's grand.
Actually, that's fair.
But then when you start hunting, you figure out internal bleeding real quick.
No, but like when you're younger, you think things like internal bleeding can happen.
Yeah.
Or it shouldn't happen. But then you're also like, quicksand's going to kill me. I can't go near the Bermuda.
Quicksand came to mind straight away. What comedian said that?
Can't go near the Bermuda Triangle.
I thought quicksand was going to be a massive issue.
Like, what if we're flying somewhere down near the Caribbean?
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle was a big.
What if our plane gets set back in time,
Yeah.
It's a really big thing. Like,
people should tell you what a big issue midges are and bog holes. A bog hole will swallow you, like.
Mm-hmm.
You're from... Like, there's plenty bog holes where you grew up. Like,
really, what they should talk about is the insidious nature of heart disease. Starting really in your 20s and 30s. If we're going to be serious, if we're like really talking about dangerous things,
or how severe taxation is on small to medium sized businesses.
Yeah, and being very diligent with what you're paying tax on.
Yeah. I was always very concerned about elephant populations as well. Very concerned. I thought, like, this is something that needs my 8-year-old brain working on it,
Yeah.
Whereas it turns out vastly overpopulated in some areas.
Are they?
Crazy, yeah. Do you ever see elephant culling is one of the grimmest things ever?
I have actually.
They fly over and dart them all, and then they have to go around and shoot them in the head.
Jesus.
It's very grim. It's very grim because they fall on top of each other.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually know someone who culled a lot of elephants, and he was saying the culling isn't too bad, but when you start doing the darting and culling, it's pretty grim.
Can we tell them about the goat thing?
Which goat thing?
When you're shooting goats.
Oh, we can. Yeah, tell them.
So, if you shoot... It's
Okay.
not funny. It's not funny.
No, let's tell the story firstly.
Right.
So there's an old wives' tale. Do they call it old wives' tales abroad as well? Or is
I think so.
So there's an old wives' tale that people who hunt goats go mental. They have like mental issues afterwards. They lose their mind.
We'd say their nerves were at them 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. So I have a few members of my family have been forestry workers back years and years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew foresters who used to do goat culling for the Irish forestries. And they went mental, and they were in a mental institution. And it's a thing. Mm-hmm. It's a whole thing among forestry workers, among farmers. And the thing is, when a goat is injured and a goat screams out, like if you shoot a deer and wound it, the deer doesn't make a noise. It runs off. If you shoot a fox will like kind of growl a small bit. Mm-hmm. But when you shoot a goat makes a noise that with your eyes closed, you would swear on your life that was a child crying. Mm-hmm. One of the grimmest noises ever, like a shrieking shrill. And that's what they reckon used to drive people mental.
Was the noise of that.
Was the noise of that crying. And it's very, very loud and it's crazy how human like that noise is.
I wonder if that's anything to do with the banshee mythology. I
think a lot of the banshee is the mating call of a vixen fox.
Oh, is that it?
Do you know when you hear the rah?
Oh, yeah.
And they're screaming, and it's for like only a few weeks or a month of the year.
To be fair, goats they're a pest. Wild goats in Ireland are a pest.
Yeah.
Deer, a lot of them are invasive, but they're also a pest of the population. So it's not. I don't know. I'm trying to justify myself for shooting goats, but just letting people know. Just
have
in case
you
don't
tried
know.
any of that goat from last week?
No, I'm going to give it probably about 2 months before I'll touch it. I'll
leave it in the freezer.
Yeah, they're. I'll give it a while and I'll see how it tastes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of meat I need to get through first. I'm going to leave all those deer and goat for about at least 2 months, I think.
Okay. Do you have all your? Are you in a first in, first out basis like with your freezer?
No, it's segregated. I have a nice bit of lamb from last year, not sheep to finish that I want to get through first. But I think, I know we talk about hunting a lot on the podcast, or on the shit talks at least, but like, I still stand by something I've thought for years, that it's hard to justify eating meat unless you've gone at least once or twice and seen what happens. Because no matter how much you think you could do, it's like, and I always actually defend vegans more, because when they're mad at someone for hunting or something, I'm like, yeah, you're fucking, at least it is
grim.
Yeah, you're standing by what you're saying,
Yeah.
But if you eat meat and you've never experienced any of the process of killing an animal or something, you just cannot imagine what it's like.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it's very serious, we take it very serious and stuff, but it's very hard, and it happens sometimes. It really happens, and I know I'd rarely, obviously we're talking about the podcast now, but in real life we don't really bring it up that much, It's like if you're, I don't know, like at a wedding or something and people are just chatting and they're like, oh, Owen goes hunting, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Because if there's a table of 10 people, at least 2 of those people who are eating meat while they're talking to you are now like, they're mad at you,
Yeah. And
it's like, how are you eating that meat when you couldn't kill something,
Actually, I was at a comedy gig the day after Valentine's Day, right? Mm-hmm. And sitting up the front, really small comedy gig, and sitting up the front of the first comedian comes up and he was like, what did everyone do for Valentine's Day? And they're asking, then he asks me, and I was like, oh, we did nothing,
Yeah.
And he was like, what were we doing yesterday? And I was like, oh, it's away. And he's like, where were you? And I was like, oh, it's down west. It's like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
And she was next to me and she's like, do not say it.
Yeah.
Do not say it. And then obviously the comedian is like, oh, what's going on here? And I was like, oh, I was working.
Yeah.
There was no way I could be like, oh, he's culling deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this place, you know.
No way.
Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
The public outcry there would have been like felt in that room.
But the deer population in Ireland is an absolute
crazy.
It's an ecological nightmare.
Yesterday I was just talking to the head of the government set up commission.
Yeah.
The guy who's on the radio and everything all the time, and even the lack of data they have for where deer are, what's happening. Like, they're doing a great job, like a lot of public outreach and stuff. A lot of people aren't happy with the season extension. It's none of my business to comment on that, but like there's just no information out there. Like, I was talking to him about a specific area where he'd heard there was a lot of deer and a lot of issues with deer. No public record of deer, like a population of deer being there at all.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of deer that are out there. And there's no, like, it's not like in the US where you've like a state wildlife biologist and there's 20 rangers per county or whatever, you know. We have none of that, like.
Nothing like that at all.
No.
Like, you get numbers reported,
full magazines.
There's self-reported numbers at the end of the year, or the end of the season, but they're probably very inaccurate. I would say under-reported for the number of deer that are actually shot.
I think drastically over-reported.
Do you reckon?
I think there's probably, we used to always say like 5% of people, but probably even less than that. I would say of people who are shooting, I think there's 3,000 deer licenses.
4 or something last.
Is it 4,000?
Yeah, the year before last.
I'd say there's probably 100 people shooting more than 100 deer a year. Which realistically, so that's 3,900 people left. Those 3,900 people are going to probably shoot 4 or 5 deer each. Maximum.
Yeah.
And they're all stags. Like, most people don't like shooting females. So then that's, say, 4,000 people shoot 5,000 deer. That's 20,000. Your 100 people shooting 100 deer are doing the vast majority of stuff, because a lot of those lads are shooting 200 and 300 deer a year, like making their living off it, you know.
The deer population thing won't be solved unless there's a very directed action towards it. The way any public mandated stuff, the way our society is set up, cannot happen. It will not fix it. There's not enough people who have the resources and can go beyond the bar of entry to go hunting. I don't think there's nothing.
No, I think it is. I think the resolving of the nationwide population issues is in the hands of those 100 people and incentivizing those 100 people to sort it out.
But I don't think those 100 people have the resources or have the time.
That's what I think. I think it's making those resources available. I think it's incentivizing that, whether it's an additional bounty fee or whether it's opening up sale of carcasses. Like, sale of carcasses is the biggest thing. If carcasses were worth more now, that population issue would be fixed by next year.
They'd want to be really worth more though. Like, they'd want to be worth like 5 or 6 times what they're worth now.
I'd say if you went from the 180 or €2 a kilo up to 350 a kilo, that issue would be fixed within a year or two. Because it's just so financially beneficial.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about somebody going out and maybe making 60 to 80 euro for a carcass. And then that's suddenly going up, and even if it's only an extra, like if they double the price, and then suddenly that goes up to 150 euro carcass, that one evening or one morning out suddenly becomes financially viable, where before it wasn't at all financially viable, you know.
Yeah, there's bound to be an actual concerted effort.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
What I'd really like if we could just do sales directly to the public.
Yeah.
That would pretty much, I think that wouldn't fix it as much as, or they wouldn't reduce numbers as much as they want to reduce them, but that would be incredibly beneficial for people who shoot a lot of deer.
Right, I'm starving. Speaking of